Someone has to. I need an extension, but
That's good, no? So what do you need? Extension box चाहिए? वो है ना? Come on, please. Let us see from here, so you can always see them. Okay, where is Sumitra and Darulani?
Krishna Krishna Hare
Krishna. We have ghee abhishekam and flower abhishekam sponsorship. Whoever want to do ghee abhishekam and flower abhishekam, please meet founder. Shri Mataji is there, so you can just ask.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Jai Radha Madhava Kunj Bihari.
हाँ चलो साइलेंस बटन तो ठीक है दे रहा था मैं स्टार्ट करता हूँ
Kunj Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja यमुना तीरा बनचारी यमुना तीरा बनचारी तेरा धाम कुंज बिहारी जय राधा कुंज बिहारी
Hare Krishna. The sponsorship for Ghee Abhishek and Flower Abhishek is available. Please contact Videshri Mandaji, whoever is interested.
The pen is with Prabhu.
And devotees, please move forward. We are expecting more devotees to come. Please move forward. Mata is please move forward. A lot of devotees will be coming for Abhishek. Please, please. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So till the time Prabhuji comes, we will recite the verse times and Prabhuji will start that. अवतारे षोडश मे पश्यन् ब्रह्मद्रुहो नृपा त्रिसप्तकृतवक्कुपितो नक्षत्रामकरोन्महि अवतारे षोडश मे पश्यन् ब्रह्मद्रुहो नृपा त्रिसप्तकृतवक्कुपितो नक्षत्रामकरोन्महि अवतारे षोडश मे पश्यन् ब्रह्मद्रुहो नृपा त्रिसप्तकृतवक्कुपितो नक्षत्रामकरोन्महि
अवतारे षोडश मे पश्यन् ब्रह्मद्रुहो नृपान् त्रिसप्तकृतवक्कुपितो निक्षत्रामकरोन्महि अवतारे षोडश मे पश्यन् ब्रह्मद्रुहो नृपान् त्रिसप्तकृतवक्कुपितो निक्षत्रामकरोन्महि अवतारे षोडश मे पश्यन् ब्रह्मद्रुहो नृपान् त्रिसप्तकृतवक्कुपितो निक्षत्रामकरोन्महि अवतारे षोडश मे पश्यन् ब्रह्मद्रुहो नृपान् सप्तकृतवक्कुपितो नक्षत्रामकरोन्महि अवतारे षोडश मे पश्यन् ब्रह्मद्रुहो नृपान् सप्तकृतवक्कुपितो नक्षत्रामकरोन्महि अवतारे षोडश मे पश्यन् ब्रह्मद्रुहो नृपान् सप्तकृतवक्कुपितो नक्षत्रामकरोन्महि अवतारे अवतारे षोडश मे
पश्यन् ब्रह्मा नृपा सप्तकृतमर्पितो ईशत्रम करोमहि
Hare Krishna. So, we welcome His Grace Chaitanya Prabhu. Prabhuji has come. So, I'll just give a brief introduction of Prabhuji till the time Prabhuji comes and dies. So, His Grace Chaitanya Prabhu has done his electronics engineering from CUIT Pune. He served as a software engineer and afterwards he dedicated his life joining ISKCON Pune. So he travels all over the world from Australia to America, giving talks on spiritual subjects in universities such as Princeton, Harvard, Stanford, and Cambridge, and companies such as Intel, Google, Amazon, and Microsoft. He is the author of the world's only Gita Daily feature, wherein he writes daily a 300-word inspirational reflection on a verse from the Bhagavad Gita. Till now, he has written over 1,700 Gita meditations that are posted on GitaDaily.com. And are read through daily feeds by thousands from all over the world. He also answers questions by seekers on his site, spiritualscientist.com, where is over 3,500 audio answers and several hundred articles are available. His articles have been published in many national newspapers, including Indian Express, Economic Times, and Times of India in the Speaking Tree column. His writings in English have been translated into several foreign languages, including German, Chinese, and Romanian, and several Indian languages including Kannada, Telugu, Bengali, Hindi and Marathi. He is a member of ISKCON, leading intellectual body, the Shastri Advisory Council, and the associate editor of ISKCON's global magazine, Back to Godhead. He is the author of 25 books like Energy, Science and Spirituality and many books. And Prabhuji also writes regularly in Times of India. So, we are very fortunate we have His Grace Chaitanya Prabhu. And personally in my life, in 2005, I had a session of Prabhuji when I was in first year, and that was very inspiring. And anytime I have any doubts about science and spirituality questions or any Shastric doubt of the references, I'll go to Spiritual Scientist website and get the answers. So very fortunate to hear from His Grace Chaitanya Prabhu. So let's welcome by one time chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Yes, we are on 320. On 320. Om Jnana-Nidhindasya Jnana-Nishalakhaya Chakshurumilitam Dena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Vishwaya Krishna-Krishna-ya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Vinamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Prajani Nirvishesha-Srimati Paschat-Pradeshitarini Vancha-kalpatarubhyascha Kripa-sindhubhyav cha Patitanam Pavadebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. I'm grateful to be here with all of you today, and we're discussing the Srimad Bhagavatam, the third chapter in the first canto. Is my audio clear to everyone behind me? Okay. So this chapter is about the various avatars, and 1, 3, 20 अवतारे षोडशमे पश्यन् ब्रह्मद्रुहो नृपान् त्रिसप्त कृत्वा कुपितो निक्षत्राम् अकरोन् महीम्. This is describing the descent, the avatar of Parashuram. So I'll look at this particular verse from 4 broad perspectives. So is whatever I'm writing is clear over there? Let me know the color that is visible. Visible? Visible, okay, good. So we'll look at it from the verse perspective. Then we will look at it from within the chapter, what it means. Then we'll look at it from the perspective of the Bhagavatam's overall message, the book itself. And then we'll look at it from our perspective, in today's world, contemporary perspective. So let's see how much we can cover today. Now, generally, whenever we hear, if we hear a class, now we may hear many points. And some points may be interesting, some points may be familiar, some points may be incomprehensible. But for us to actually understand, there's a point. And then there is the point of the point. What does that mean? Why is this point being spoken? Sometimes, if some speakers are not very structured in their talking, when they speak one point and when they speak next point, they say, what is the connection? You know? So, okay, you're speaking this, like somebody may tell a joke. And then you say, what is the point of the joke? Is it just for laughs? Or is there some philosophical point being conveyed through the joke? So, to the extent we understand the point of the point, to that extent we can be more absorbed. We can, okay, this is going on here, this is going on here, this is going on here. So similarly, when we study the Bhagavatam, if we can look at the verses in broader contexts, then we can understand a verse better. It's just like, say I meet one of you, or you meet me. Then you can meet me and you can know me as a person, I can know you as a person. But then we don't just exist as isolated units, individuals. No, okay, I know you, okay, you are a person, you are in a particular profession, you are a part of a particular temple community, we are all parts of a particular country. So when we place something in multiple contexts, then we get better and better understanding. So this is just naturally how we function. Sometimes we may place something in a context, something or someone in a context, even without realizing it. For example, we see someone, oh, this person is say from that temple, and that temple and our temple, there is some issue, there are differences. Or that person is from that organization, and that organization has that kind of philosophy. Okay, that may be true, but that doesn't mean every individual from that organization has that kind of philosophy. That kind of philosophical orientation. Not necessarily. The point is, I talked about this 4 levels. You could put it another way. So if this is the verse, we can study the verse itself. We can study the verse as a part of a chapter. We can study the verse as a part of a book. And we can study the verse as a part of our life understanding. In my life, what do I need to understand? And how does this relate to me? We can go on and have other contexts also. But basically, Srila Prabhupada said, study scripture from different perspectives. So what does perspective means? We place it in different frameworks. And then we can understand it better. Just like if you are buying a house. We may want to go inside and look at the house. Okay, where are the windows? How big is the kitchen? How big is the main hall? But then we may also want to talk to you. Okay, where is this house located? What is the neighborhood over here? Is this a high crime neighborhood? Are the good schools over here? Are the roads safe? So we want to look at things from different perspectives. Like that, when we want absorption in Shastra, we want deeper understanding, deeper absorption, looking at it from multiple perspectives helps. So at one level, this chapter is a list of various avatars. And that particular about Parshuram will come toward the end of the talk. Now, if we look at it from the perspective of the Bhagavatam. So now the Bhagavatam is spoken by someone to someone. Who is speaking to whom? We have Shukdev Goswami speaking to Parikshit Maharaj. The entire Bhagavatam message is spoken like that. And that has one purpose. What is the purpose? Yes, when he is departing from the world, to help him go back to God, to help him remember the Lord at the time of Godhead. So basically, the Bhagavatam is providing two main things: resources for remembrance and reasons for remembrance. Why to remember the Lord and how to remember the Lord. The resources are primarily in terms of the pastimes. The reasons are in terms of the philosophy. So now, in the right at the start of the Bhagavatam, what happens is, if suppose somebody is going to give a big talk, and we would like to know what is the topic of the talk. So 1.2 and 3, these two are describing the two main themes of the Bhagavatam. The first instructive chapter. Before this, what we have is essentially the introduction, setting the scene. This describes bhakti and this describes Bhagavan. So the various avatars are described. And while the various avatars are described in this chapter, what is done is that generally most people don't come to know God. God is very far away. Srila Prabhupada says in his book On the Way to Krishna, all knowledge comes from God. But all knowledge doesn't begin with God. Now what does it mean? It's an interesting concept. So knowledge, if you want to say. So what Prabhupada is saying is, knowledge is coming from Krishna. But although it is coming from Krishna, he says, so that means what? Mattaha smritir jnanam apohanam. Our capacity to learn, the insight that we get, all that comes from Krishna. But he says, for us, if we are in the world, it's not suddenly one day we start thinking about Krishna. Rather, we look at the world around us and we observe things in the world. We see some object here and we have a question, what is it? And then, so our knowledge begins from the world around us. Our knowledge begins from our surroundings. So knowledge comes from Krishna, but knowledge doesn't begin with Krishna. So we look at the world around us. So that's why to make himself known to us, to make himself accessible to us, the Lord comes into this world. Because if he's somewhere far away, most people may not even inquire about him. Now we can say he's present in our heart as a Paramatma, but there people can't see him. That's why when he manifests in this world, then he becomes accessible to us. So that is the idea. This is the spiritual world. This is the material world. So most of us are caught in the material world. We are trying to gain pleasure, and we are trying to avoid trouble. This is what essentially we are doing in our life. While we are trying to do this, we face some problems. Then sometimes we may pray to God for help. But apart from that, most people don't have much interest in God. So if Krishna is existing over here, most people will not be interested in. That's why what Krishna does is, Krishna periodically keeps coming here. It keeps coming here again and again and again. So Shodashi, this was the 16th avatar is being described. But how many avatars are there? Unlimited. The Bhagavatam says there are as many avatars as there are waves in an ocean. Why waves in an ocean? Because waves are endless. Like that, the Lord's avatars are endless. And why are they endless? Because the Lord's love for us is endless. And that's why He keeps coming again and again and again. There are some religious traditions, they claim that their particular teacher or their particular savior, that is the only way to God. That is the only time God is come. So this, what they are doing is, we are making the unlimited limited. God is unlimited. Why would Bhaktivinoda Thakur ask this question? Why should God be the monopoly of any one religion? No. God is inclusive. It can be accessed in many different ways. So the idea of avatar, it actually refers to the mercy manifestation of the Lord, where from the spiritual world He comes to the material world. Avatarati iti avatar. Now I am intentionally using the word avatar. What is the normal English word for that? Incarnation. Now, are these two really equal? In this purport, Prabhupada uses the word incarnation and descent both. There's a problem with the word incarnation because it has karna in it. What is karna? It's flesh, the carnivorous animals. So those which eat flesh. Or carnal desires. That means desires for sensual enjoyment of the flesh. So this idea of the term incarnation comes from the Christian tradition. Their idea is that they have the idea that there are three manifestations. There is the God as the Father, and then there is God as the Son. And they say that this manifests as this. But in their understanding, when Jesus came, so now some Christians say that the Christ is universal, Jesus is specific. Although most Christians don't differentiate that way. But either way, their idea is that when Jesus came to this world, He came in a physical body. And that is why when He was crucified, blood came out of His body, He was wounded. So there are incarnation means to come in flesh. And that's why the more common word also we have is reincarnation. That means to come again in a material body. So does Krishna come in a material body? So that is why descent may be a better word. Now of course incarnation also has a non-literal meaning. That a particular, some people may say that the Indian tricolor is the incarnation of the spirit of India's independence. So something which is not manifest becomes manifest, that's also called as incarnation. It's used sometimes in non-literal sense. So what Srila Prabhupada did was, he didn't want to bring double unfamiliarity. That you see, there are two things. There is a concept. A concept is basically mental. It's a mind concept. And then there is a term. The term is verbal. So we could say a concept is like a suitcase. And a term is like the handle to the suitcase. So if I have a suitcase, I have a handle over it. So now there's a concept. I am thinking of something, I want to tell it to you. But what is the concept in my head? How can I tell it to you unless I put it in words? There are concept and there are concepts and there are terms. So the terms give us a verbal handle to the concepts. If this sounds a little complicated, don't worry about it. It's not too vital, but I'm just talking about the word avatar and incarnation. So what happens is that terms are used to communicate concepts. But there's a problem over there. The problem is, once I was in Florida, in Alachua, I was going from one place to another, and as we were packing up, the handle of my suitcase broke. We had to rush for the flights. We didn't have time to go and buy another suitcase. So the devotee was hosting me. They gave me their suitcase. And generally, I can't carry my suitcase, so others carry it for me. So then I put the suitcase in carry-on, in check-in, and then I reached, I think I was going to Denver. I reached there, and I got to Denver. I went to carry on. Because we had been in a hurry and that suitcase had been in the last moment, I had forgotten what the suitcase looks like. I only remembered that the suitcase had like a white handle to it. So then on the baggage claim, we had to take out all the suitcase with the white handle and then look at the tag to find out which is my suitcase. So what happens is sometimes a similar looking handle may be attached to multiple suitcases. So in that case, what happens is, what are we referring to? That may not be clear. So this happens, say for example, consider the word run. It's a term. Now the word run in English has 540 plus meanings. So I am going for a run. I am jogging. I am running because my car has stopped running. Right? I am running because my car has stopped functioning. Running is functioning. Who is running for president now? That is completely different meaning of running, isn't it? So some you can say that because this person is running for president, I am running away from this country. So the same word run can have multiple meanings. And generally, from the context, we understand which meaning is being used. We understand from the context. But sometimes there is a term, as I said, there is a term and there is a concept. So terms are used to communicate concepts. So like if the similar looking handle is attached to many suitcases, then the handle won't tell me what the suitcase is, which is my suitcase. I have to look at the handle, then I have to actually look at the suitcase also. So that's why what happens, sometimes I may be using a term and you may be hearing the term. But that term in my mind is associated with one concept. And with the other person it's associated with another concept. I was giving a class in Australia and I told them that I studied engineering and I passed out in 98. Now in Indian language, pass out means to graduate. In the West, pass out means to fall unconscious. So they all became confused. What happened? Why did you pass out? Why are you telling us? So the same term can bring in mind different concepts. So like that, the word avatar. Avatar in the Western conception, avatar means to come in flesh. And that is why we see Srila Prabhupada's purports. So many times he emphasizes, Krishna does not come in a material body. Why? Because, see, Prabhupada doesn't want to make things extremely difficult for the audience. That's why he doesn't want, in general, Prabhupada, when he wrote his commentaries, he did not use too many Sanskrit terms in English. For example, Prabhupada doesn't use the word Atma. Prabhupada uses the word soul. Now, Prabhupada doesn't use the word Punarjanma, he uses the word reincarnation. Generally, Prabhupada preferred English words. Although those English words are not exactly precise. The Christian conception of the soul is actually different from the Vedic conception of the soul also. But Prabhupada used that. But then, if Prabhupada knew that there might be some misconception that this term might bring, so use a familiar term so that people don't feel extremely intimidated. Hey, what is going on? I can't understand this. This term is also new, this concept is also new, but it's too difficult. Better I'll not study this only. So Prabhupada will use a familiar term, but then he will clarify the meaning. So that's why he used the word incarnation, but sometimes he says descent. It's not coming in flesh, but it's more coming from a higher level of reality to a lower level of reality. And why is this important? Because if we understand that Krishna is all pure, Krishna is not affected by material body, that means he's still transcendental, he can elevate and liberate us. Now, in today's world, when Prabhupada wrote his books in 1960s, at that time, the English had not been much Sanskritized. But now, the word avatar is a part of the mainstream lexicon. There are multi-million-dollar movies by the name Avatar. Recently, one movie had come about. And beyond that, everybody on social media has their digital avatars. So you have an icon which say, and you can choose what avatar you want. So the word has become familiar. And here, it is not so much going from a higher level of reality to a lower reality. It's more of your representation in another level of reality. So there is physical reality, there is physical and there is digital. So it's basically like going from, transporting from one level of reality to another. So your representation in another level of reality, that's what is called as avatar. So the word is familiar. But again, here also the avatar is different from what it is used in the Bhagavad Gita or in the Vedic tradition. Interestingly, the Gita talks about the term, about the concept avatar, but the Gita doesn't use the word avatar. Krishna says, Sambhavami Yuge. He doesn't say I am the avatar, he is the source of all avatars, as the Bhagavatam describes. So, here, Krishna makes himself accessible to us through many avatars. And in the Bhagavatam, in the 3rd chapter, the Bhagavatam, the merciful nature of divinity is described through the many manifestations of divinity. How the Lord comes in so many avatars. And what does he do? He, first of all, makes himself accessible. So there are two purposes broadly of the descent of the avatar. And this also, it demonstrates Srila Prabhupada's distinctive focus. Why does the avatar come? One is to establish dharma in the world. And 4.7 and 8, Yada yada hi dharmasya sambhavami yuge yuge. Those verses are often quoted. And in the broader Hindu tradition, this verse is mostly quoted whenever the Lord descends. And that is true. That is one purpose of the Lord. But there is also another purpose, that is to establish prema, the love, in the heart. And that is described in the next two verses. And Srila Prabhupada would quote 4.9 much more. Janma karma chame divyam evam yo vetti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti so Arjuna. So establishing dharma is for the outer world. So whenever there is a large amount of disorder in the world, then the Lord descends. And he descends, and what does he do? He restores order. He empowers the virtuous, he disempowers the vicious. And in that way, he establishes order. And usually, the Lord does this in the form of a Kshatriya. So Ram, Krishna, they are all Kshatriyas. And then, Krishna gives his teachings in the Bhagavad Gita. Lord Ram gives a beautiful example by which he attracts the hearts. So we could say that this is like a pyramid. The pyramid, the top is narrow, the bottom is deep. So dharma is for the broad society. And the prema is for a smaller niche. Not everybody will want to develop love for the Lord. It's wonderful if they do. But if they don't want, that's not what the Lord imposes on everyone. Dharma is important. And here, then Krishna is saying dharma samsthapanarthaya. Here dharma is not so much religion as order. We can say today some law and order, as we say. It is more of establishing law and order. The Kurukshetra war is called as Dharma Yuddha. It is not a Bhakti Yuddha. It is not, it was a war to establish dharma in the world. So if we consider, there were the Pandavas and there were the Kauravas. It is not that all the Pandavas were devotees and the Kauravas were non-devotees. No, among the Pandavas, there was Drupada, who was a Shaivite. His Kuladaivat was Lord Shiva. And that's why we had Draupadi, we had the story of Draupadi praying 5 times to Lord Shiva, and that's how she got 5 husbands. Now, on the Kaurava side, there was Bhishma. He was a Vaishnava. Not only Bhishma, Bhurishrava. Bhurishrava was also a powerful king. He was a Vaishnava. So the idea is that this war was fought not to force a particular form of bhakti in the world. It was to establish basic dharma. Now Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita very clearly establishes that there are various levels of spiritual connection, and those who connect with him at the personal level are the highest. That knowledge is there. But faith is not imposed through war. Faith is something which has to be chosen. However, law is not a matter of choice. Law has to be followed by everyone. So when Krishna says, I come to establish dharma, that is to establish order. In the broad Vedic tradition, see, when Krishna is punishing someone, Krishna, when there is punishment, the war was fought to punish the Kauravas. The punishment is for wrongdoers. It is not for non-believers. Who are punished? You can believe what you want. You have that right. That doesn't make your belief right. The belief may be wrong. Belief is not to be forced on you. However, if your belief starts translating into action that is harmful to others, then there are serious consequences. So that has to be regulated. And that is why the Vedic tradition has never been fanatical. In many other religions, the punishment is given to non-believers. But in the Vedic tradition, it is to wrongdoers. If you see in the 16th chapter, when Krishna talks about the demoniac nature, the prominent description is about their behavior. He's not saying because they are non-devotees, so they are going to go to hell. He's saying because they are engaged in destructive activities. As a consequence of that, they will go to hell. So, the purpose of the avatar, I'll make 2 points and then we'll have question and answers after that if we have time. So, the purpose of the avatar is to establish dharma and subsequently establish prema. Now, among the various avatars, so what is the Bhagavatam doing over here? It is revealing right in the beginning how merciful, how caring the Lord is, that He comes in so many manifestations. And then in this particular chapter, it will be described, while the Lord has many manifestations, the most endearing, the most enriching, the most enlightening manifestation of that is Krishna. The most personal and personable manifestation is Krishna. So that will be established later. But at this point, let's focus on Parashuram. Now in Parashuram, it is described, he is, as the name indicates, Parashuram. He was called as also Jamadagni, he was the son of the sage. And so Jamadagni, he is also called as various names. So what happened? He was in a Brahmana family. And as a Brahmana, he was doing Brahmanical duties. However, there was an emergency. What happened was that the Kshatriya king at that time, who was that king? Kartikeya Arjuna. He became so arrogant that he tried to seize the property of the Brahmanas. Now that was just one action, but that action is indicative of a disposition. Generally in that culture, the Brahmanas were respected. And a king has great power. A king can seize anything from anyone. If a king is going to seize from a Brahmana, that means that the king has no fear of anyone. It's like if somebody robs Somebody robs a robber robs in a dark street. Well, they want to get away. If a robber goes and robs in public, while the robber knows that there is CCTV camera going to see that I am beating this person, robbing that person, that means the robber has no fear of law. If that robber actually goes to a police station and robs from the people in the police station, that means that robber really has no fear at all. If the robber goes and robs the police itself, so basically, what it means, that which is to be feared for maintaining law and order, if that is not feared at all, then that is a very fearful situation, isn't it? If a robber has no fear of those who will punish the robber, it's a very dangerous situation. So Kartavya Arjuna is trying to seize the property of a Brahmana. That is indicative of a very corrupt mentality, a very arrogant mentality, where if he can seize from a Brahmana, then he can seize from anyone else, and that is dangerous. So Parshuram, I won't go into the full story over here, but Parshuram tries to put a stop to it, and then he puts a stop to it, but then his sons come and Parshuram is not there, and they do something even more atrocious. What do? They actually kill Chapatanti. Now, among the various kinds of wrongs that are described in the Vedic scriptures, killing is bad, any kind of killing is bad. But Go Hatya, Bhrunu Hatya and Brahma Hatya, all three are considered extremely terrible. The killing of a cow, the killing of an embryo, the killing of a Brahmana. So now this indicated that to Parshuram that they were so dastardly. That dastardly means so perverted, so distorted, that it was not just a one-off problem. Sometimes we say there is one bad apple, and in every place there are some good bad people. Yes, that is true. But this was not just the father was bad, the sons were also bad. And on top of that, many sons came together to do this. And not one of his sons opposed or stopped. Even among the Kauravas, when Duryodhana and Dushasana tried to disrobe Draupadi, at that time Vikarna said stop. Although Karna overruled Vikarna at that time, but Vikarna at least tried to stop. But here not one of his sons tried to stop. Then Parshuram decided this is a serious infection among the Kshatriyas. The Kshatriyas have become completely corrupted. They become so arrogant by their power that they have to be eliminated. They have to be eliminated. Like when the pandemic was there, at that time, in the early days, people didn't know how serious was the pandemic. So, suppose in a particular home, if somebody had come and he found that he was having COVID, then what you do is, you do fumigation of the whole home. You want to remove all germs from there. So that's an extreme measure, but sometimes it's required. So like this, Parshuram decided that the Kshatriyas as a class have to be taught a lesson. And that is where he exhibited his stupendous prowess. And he established Dharma in the world. So that is described in this particular verse. And the idea is, such is the multifacetedness, the variegatedness of divinity. There is Advaitam, Achyutam, Anadim, Anantarupam. The idea is, why are so many avatars described? While the Bhagavatam is clear in saying that Krishna is the source of all avatars, but the Bhagavatam also recognizes that not everybody may be attracted to one particular manifestation of divinity alone. Yes, Krishna is all attractive. That doesn't necessarily mean everyone will be equally attracted to Krishna alone. The Vedic tradition offers God in many manifestations. So whichever manifestation you are attracted to, that's good. Yadyadhiya turugaya vibhavayanti tattadvapu pranyase sat anugrahaya. Whichever manifestation a devotee desires to worship the Lord reveals himself in that manifestation and attracts him. And that is the mercy. So the mercy is in terms of many avatars. So there are many, so the Lord comes to establish dharma, I said. Each time when there is disruption in the cosmos, the Lord will come to establish order. But that is a contextual purpose. Order will be established, but soon after that, the nature of the world is from order, disorder comes. That's how it is. Entropy is there, thermodynamics law is there. That's how things work. Sakale neha mahata. So that is a contextual purpose. And for that time, place, circumstance, that's important. But these many avatars, what they also do is, they also give us many forms of the Lord which we can remember. And they are also an opportunity for developing prema. One person may be attracted to one avatar, another person may be attracted to another avatar. And that's fine. Those leelas you are attracted to, that's fine. Being attracted to the Lord, we will be elevated. We will be eventually attracted toward the Lord, and then we will be liberated. So this is universal. So Kunti Maharani in her prayers analyzes what are the reasons the Lord descends. She gives various reasons, and finally she concludes, Shravan Smaranadhani Karishan iti kechana. That you descend to provide opportunity for souls like us to hear about you, to remember you, and ultimately to be avidya kama karma vikrishyamana. That those who are in klesha, they can be elevated and liberated. So, such is the multifacetedness, the multiple manifestations of the Lord are all expressions of His love. He's providing us so many opportunities to remember Him and to attain Him. So, at our stage, we have to understand that there is a Bhed and Abhed aspect. So, if you consider divinity, at one level, if you consider Krishna and Vishnu, Krishna, Vishnu, you consider there is Bheda, there is a difference. But at another level, Krishna, Vishnu, there is Abheda, there is non-difference. And we need to understand when to focus on what. Within the Bhagavatam, within the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, for example, Jiva Goswami Sandarbhas, he spends a lot of energy in establishing the difference that Krishna is the highest manifestation of divinity. So, for particular purposes, sometimes for establishing tattva, we may want to establish the difference. However, when it comes to rasa, there is no need to emphasize the difference. We have two pastimes in Chaitanya Charitamrita, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu goes on South India tour. There is one where a devotee is chanting the names of Lord Ram, and he meets Mahaprabhu and starts chanting the names of Krishna. And in another pastime, there are devotees in great separation from Lord Ram. He's in great agony because he's thinking that Sita has been abducted by Ravana. How could the goddess of fortune be touched by a demon like Ravana? And what does Mahaprabhu do? Mahaprabhu says, hey, don't worry, forget Krishna, forget Ram, he's lower level. Just worship Krishna. Mahaprabhu doesn't do that. Mahaprabhu actually assures him. And to assure him, Mahaprabhu finds a copy of the Matsya Purana, brings back to him, and tells him that actually Sita was never abducted. It was Chaya Sita. She was abducted. A shadow of Sita, a replica of Sita was abducted. And then he feels great relief. So Mahaprabhu does not trivialize Ram Bhakti. Sometimes what happens is we want to go to Goloka, not Vaikuntha. We start treating Vaikuntha like our dirty backyard. No. Vaikuntha is also the spiritual world, and anybody who is attracted to any form of divinity is glorious. So in the Bhagavatam, we understand when to focus on what. If we understand the overall Bhagavatam, so there are times when we, in our development of relationship with Krishna, our philosophical understanding, we try to understand the Tattva, we try to develop a relationship with Krishna. But if somebody is attracted to Ram, somebody is attracted to Narasimha, we don't have to minimize it. We don't have to trivialize it. We respect it. Even when we feel attracted, it's wonderful. At our stage, we are far away from the state of the gopis. At our stage, we are we are attracted not by the cows, we are attracted by another go, that is the senses. When the senses, the go says go, we go. The senses say go, we go after the sense objects. So at our level, yena kena prakarena mana Krishna nivesha. So at our level, don't make a big difference between Krishna and Narasimha and Rama and Parashurama. No. Whichever form of the Lord we are attracted to, that's wonderful. Fix the mind on the divine and raise our consciousness. That's how we can move toward Krishna. Eventually, when we are purified of material contaminations, then our particular rasa, transcendental rasa, according to Aswarupa, will be revealed. But let's not jump to that right now. Let's focus on elevating our consciousness and enabling others to elevate their consciousness. So I'll summarize. I discussed 3 main points today. The first was, I talked about within the Bhagavatam, the significance of this chapter on avatars. How it is describing the love of God and how He's so merciful that He descends to this world. And the second part was, I discussed about the difference between avatar and incarnation. Basically, the concept of avatar. Avatar comes to establish dharma in the world and prema in the world. The Lord does not come in a material form. And the last part was, when we talk about the multiple manifestations of the Lord, we use Veda when it is appropriate for us to increase our faith. But we focus on Abheda when it is in terms of others their heart being attracted toward Krishna and even our heart being attracted toward Krishna. So now we have Pushabhishek. So here, what are we doing? We are offering our heart's devotion to the Lord. We are trying to experience rasa by doing seva. We take the best manifestations, the most valuable things from the world, and we offer them in abhishek to the Lord. And in that way, the more we offer to the Lord, what happens is, when we give something to the Lord, what are we doing? We are giving the Lord a place in our heart. And the more the valuable thing we give to the Lord, the more valuable a place we give the Lord in our heart. That is the principle of offering to the Lord. Maite teshu chapyaham. When we give, ultimately what we want to give is, we want to give Him our heart itself. But if we can't give our heart, then we give what is in our heart. So what is in our heart is wealth and fame and pleasure. So we give that in a mood of service to Krishna. So when we give what is in our heart to Krishna, we give Krishna a place in our heart. Thank you very much. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki, Jai Gaur Premanande. Okay. Okay, 1 or 2 questions. Yes, quickly.
Shall I ask one question? 1:3:26. Prabhupada explains that Krishna also appears in aquatics, reptiles, vegetables. Is it that somewhere Krishna is also appearing as a tree, as the incarnation, apart from this Parashurama?
So Prabhupada says Krishna appears in aquatics and other. Does He appear in trees also? Well, it's not described in the Bhagavatam, but our philosophy is that Krishna is always transcendental. So Krishna can appear anywhere. Yes, He can appear. The author not described, but He can appear. In principle, it's possible. Yes, please.
Hare Krishna, Guruji.
Okay. Yeah.
While interacting with outside world, so sometimes people have some misconception about avatar. So as we know that familiarity breeds contempt. Familiarity breeds contempt.
Yeah.
So when the avatar comes again and again and again, and it's very so sometimes people feel it very cheap that it's coming again and again and again. And some people say that suppose a minister is there, some big person is there, so he will send his representative to go somewhere. He himself will come very rarely. So when avatar is coming again and again, so sometimes people say that familiarity breeds contempt and they take it cheaply. That's one conception. And second conception, Prabhuji, can you please clarify that some people have conception that something which is great should be unmanifested, and when it becomes manifested in a form, that's lower and that's cheap. So can you clarify these two concepts?
So is it that if the Lord comes too often, that familiarity will breed contempt, and that's why people take avatars cheaply. Well, yes, see, when it comes to possible, anything is possible. You know, a person, any fact can be used for any purpose. You know, there are people who say that this whole idea of reincarnation is actually very toxic for religion. Why? Because if you have many lifetimes, then you will say, in a future lifetime, I will become religious. There's no need to become lifetime religious in that lifetime. So any idea can be applied in any way. So there is the idea and there is the application. That can be very separate. But the idea is that the principle of reincarnation is that God keeps giving us repeated chances. So it is God's love for us that He gives us many lifetimes, repeated chances. It is God's love for us that He comes again and again. Now, how we respond to God's love is up to us. So is it that because we take His love cheaply, so He will start decreasing the expression of His love? That is not the nature of God. That's why we need a living tradition which helps us appreciate and value what we have. And the second part is that somebody who is great is inaccessible. Well, yes, God is great and He's inaccessible. But at the same time, God, especially in His personality as Krishna, does not delight in simply displaying His greatness. Though He delights in reciprocating love. If we consider in some other religions, you ask the people, what does God do? You know, God is like a judge. There is the concept of Leela, the concept of God reciprocating love with His devotees. That is actually the unique contribution of the Vedic literature to world theology. There's one critic, he said that, he said that, you know, actually, if God is nothing more than a judge, and that's what you have to be for eternity. So being God will be very boring. Isn't it? So, God doesn't just delight in His Godhood, I am up there. God, not just He makes Himself accessible here, even in the spiritual world He makes Himself accessible. That is the nature of God. He is inaccessible because He is infinite. But He makes Himself accessible. And that is how He reciprocates love. So Krishna's interest, Krishna as God is not interested in parading His Godhood. Krishna is interested in reciprocating love. And that's why He descends again and again to give us opportunities to enter into His world of love. Now, is the manifest lower than the unmanifest? Well, it depends. What are we meaning by the word manifest and unmanifest? There is the understanding that there is material manifestation, then there is unmanifestation, and then there is spiritual manifestation. So those who think that there is no such thing as a spiritual manifestation, they think that something which is abstract which becomes manifest, it is lower. But if we understand that there is something called spiritual manifestation, then it is not so much the unmanifest becoming manifest, like a patriotism. It's an abstract concept. And a flag is a tangible symbol. So, you say, feel patriotic. Okay, how do I feel patriotic? I see the flag, I salute it. So their idea is God is an abstract, the ultimate reality is abstract conception. So we don't feel devotion. That's why that manifests as the Abhishek, 5-10 minutes. Quickly, please. I don't want to keep everyone waiting.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu
Dhanyavad.
See, who is Avatari? Krishna is Avatari or Vishnu is Avatari of all the other avatars?
So it's Krishna Avatari or is Vishnu Avatari? See, again, this is like a storm in a teacup. There is no need to make this into a big conflict. I'll explain the understanding how it is. See, basically, there is, when we talk about Krishna, he is manifesting at multiple levels. So there is Krishna in this world. Then there is Vishnu, who is the maintainer of the world. He exists at the transit between material and spiritual world. And then there is Krishna in the spiritual world. So what happens is there are many avatars which come in this world. So from this world's perspective, whenever there is trouble, the Devatas and others go to Lord Vishnu and they pray to Vishnu, and then an avatar comes. So from this world's perspective, all the avatars are coming to Vishnu. So in that sense, if we say that Vishnu is the source of all avatars, that's not wrong. But he is the source in the sense that he is the channel. All avatars, the prayer goes to Vishnu. The prayer goes to Vishnu and then the response comes. So when some people say Vishnu is the source of all avatars, that's not wrong. Who is the source of all attractiveness for us? Whether Vishnu is the source or Krishna is the source, am I being attracted to them? That is the most important thing. So focus on that and we will eventually gain realization. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premanande.
So thank you, Chaitanya Prabhu. So we will thank one time Prabhu for giving us a wonderful concept and handle the terms. So let's thank one time by chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So as you all know, Friday was
So I have written a few books, and about 27 minutes Prabhupada said that write your realizations and study scripture from different perspectives. I just in a minute tell about these books. There are 4 books that explain the Bhagavad Gita from different perspectives. This is from an applicational perspective. Now, how the Gita's wisdom can help us to deal with loss and grief, to face problems, to stay calm amidst temptations, to be less judgmental, more sensitive. That's 365 articles, each one page. It's an applicational perspective. Much of what I spoke today is from this book, the difference between avatar and incarnation, Bhagavad Gita Insights. This is the Gita from a rational perspective, 100 articles that with some diagrams and other things which explain. So each article is the answer to a question. If God is equal to all, then why is he taking sides? If God is omnipotent, then do we really have free will? If the modes do everything, why are we responsible for our actions? And this is the Gita from a relational perspective. That is how the Gita is not just philosophy, but it is actually Krishna's love for Arjuna expressed through philosophy and God's love for all of us. This is the Gita from an inspirational perspective. The 365 quotes inspired by the Bhagavad Gita, and all these are available as a set as well as individual books. And if you want, I am also available for signing after the program, after the vision. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So just to tell the price of the books. So these 2 small books cost 300 each, and this big book costs 400, and the calendar this costs 350. So those of you who want books can come and take here. This calendar, whoever wants, we have run out of stock of this calendar. Whoever wants.
okay. So let's
गोत्रोद्भवस्य स्वामी आचार्य भगवानस्य अस्म भगवत भक्ति उत्तरोत्तर भगवत भक्तिरूपी पूर्णेश्वरी उत्तरोत्तराभिवृद्ध्यर्थम ध्यानावाहनादे षोडशोपचार पूजा पूर्वकम अस्मिन् वासरे महापुष्या नक्षत्र पुष्याभिषेकम आराधनम जाचार श्रीहस्तेन अन्योना सहायेन कारयिष्ये षण्णो मित्रशं वरुणः षण्णो भवद्वर्यमा षण्णो विष्णुरुक्रमः नमो ओम ध्यानं नारायण ध्यानं सत्पुण्डरीकनयनं मेघावं वैद्युतापुरं दिव्यं ज्ञानमुद्राढ्यं वनमालिमीश्वरं दिव्यालङ्कारोपेदं जगवित् परिवेष्टितं चिदानन्दघनं कृष्णं राधालिङ्गितविग्रहं ध्यायामि सर्वान्तर्यामिने देव सर्वमिदमिदं ततः आत्मस्थाय वरं शुद्धं जावेन आसनं कल्पयाम्यहमिदमासनं स्वागतं सुस्वागतं कृपया सुस्वागतं कृतार्थो न कृतस्मै सबलं जीवितं मे यदा कदोऽसि देवेश चिदानन्दमया व्यया वाक्यम् ॐ परमात्म शुद्ध्याय कल्पते वाद्यं अर्घ्यं तावत्रयहरं दिव्यं परमानन्दरक्षं तावदेव क्षयतवार्घ्यं कल्पयाम्यहम् ॐ इदमाचमनीयमाचमनीयं वेदानां वेदाय देवनां देवतात्मनाचमने कल्पयामीश शुद्धानां शुद्धेः तवे मनुवर्गदे सर्वकल्मषहानाय परिपूर्णं सदात्मकं मधुवर्कमिमं देवं कल्पयामि प्रसीद मे उधर नहीं वो घी का अभिषेक होगा ना मधुवर्गाणि समर्पयामि उच्चैष्टोक्तचतुर्भावे मदन मोहनाय नमः उच्चैष्टोक्तचतुर्भावे स्मस्मरणमात्र शुद्धिमाप्नोति तस्मै ते पुनराचमनीयकम् सिंपल
मैं इधर रहना एक बाल अनुकूल फोन करेंगे मैं करके मैं निकल जाऊँगा इलेक्ट्रॉन के बाद
ओम श्रुतं कृतपावना पिबतवसम्मसा विवतान्तरिक्षस्य हविराशि स्वाहा देशो प्रदेशादेश विदेश उद्दिश्य दिग्भ्यः स्वाहा पुष्ये घृतेन स्नापयामि हरि बोल सहस्रशीर्षः पुरुषः सहस्राक्षः भूमिं विश्वतो वृत्वा शेषानः यदन्नेनातिरोहति एतावानस्य महिमा अथोऽध्यायागश्च पुरुषः पादोऽस्य विश्वभूतानि त्रिपादस्यामृतं दिवे त्रिपादोर्ध्वोदये पादोऽस्येह भवात् पुनः ततो विश्वं व्यक्रामते शासनादशने अभि तस्मात् विराड जायत विराजो अधिपुरुषः पश्चात् भूमिमतो पुरः यत्पुरुषेण हविजा वसन्तोऽस्यासीदाज्यं ग्रीष्म इद्मः शरद्धविः सप्तास्य सन्मरिदयः त्रिसप्तसमिधः कृताः तैयज्ञं वर्षे प्रोक्षण्य पुरुषं जातमग्रतः आचमन के साध्यार्षयश्च ये तस्मात् यज्ञात् सर्वभूतः ऋतः सामानि जग्निरे छन्दागुं तस्मात्
यजोस्तस्मादजायत तस्मादश्वा अजायन्त एके च भजातः गावो हयद्भिरे तस्मात् तस्माच्छत अजावयः यत्पुरुषं यदधुः कतिधा व्यगल्पयन् मुखं किमस्य गौ बाहो गाभूरो पादामुच्यते पूर्णस्य यद्वैश्यः पद्भ्यागुमुद्रो अजायत चन्द्रमा मनसो जातः चक्षुस्तूर्यो अजायत मुखादिन्द्रश्चाग्निश्च प्राणाद्वायुरजायत शीर्ष्णोद्योत्समवर्तत मध्याम्भोभिर्दशश्रोत्रात् वेदाहमेतं पुरुषं महान्तम् आदित्यवर्षं तमसः परस्तात् तमेवं विद्वानमृत इह भवति नान्यः पन्था विद्यते अनाय प्रजापतिश्चरति गर्भे अन्तः अजायमानो बहुधा विजायते मरीचीणां पदमिच्छन्ति वेदसः यो देवानां पुरोहितः पूर्वो देवेभ्यो जातः रुजं ब्राह्मं जनयन्तः देवा अद्भेदब्रुवन् यस्त्वैवं ब्राह्मणविद्यात् तस्य देवा असङ्गजे अहोरात्रे पार्श्वे नक्षत्रानिरूपम् अश्विनो व्याप्तम् इष्टं मनीषाना अमं मनीषाना सर्वं मनीषाना दातुं यज्ञाय दातुं यज्ञपदये दैवे स्वस्तिरस्तुरः स्वस्तिर्मानुषेभ्यः ऊर्ध्वन्यादुभेषजम् चतुष्पदे एक मिनट सनातन बाबू उनको छोड़ दो माता जी को देवमक्षरं परमं पदं मेरा मम्मी आ रहा है विश्वद परमान् नित्यं विश्वनारायण परः विश्व मेरा मम्मी है मेरा माँ है यात्मेश्वरगुं शाश्वतगुं शिवमच्युतं नारायणं महाज्ञेयं विश्वात्मानं परायणं नारायण परं ब्रह्मतत्त्वं नारायण परः नारायण परो ज्योतिरात्मा नारायण यच्च किञ्चित् जगत्यस्मिन् दृश्यते श्रूयते विव अन्तर्बहिश्च तत्सर्वं व्याप्य नारायणस्थितः अनन्तमव्ययं हृदयञ्जाप्यधोमुखम् अधो नित्याविदस्यान्दनाभ्यमुपरि हृदयं तद्विजानीय विश्वस्य यतनं महत् सन्ततगुं स्थिराविस्थुलं वज्रगोचसन्निभम् तस्यान्ते सुशिरगुं सूक्ष्मं तस्मिन् सर्वं प्रतिष्ठितम् तस्य मध्ये महानग्निर्विश्वार्चिर्विश्वतोमुखः सोऽग्रभुक्तिभजन् तिष्ठन्नारमजरभ्रमिः सन्तावयस्कन्देहमापादतलमस्त तस्य मध्ये मन्दिशिखा नियोर्धाव्यवस्थितः निवारशोकवत्सन्धि भीतावास्याच्चनुपमा तस्याशिखाया मध्ये परमात्मा व्यवस्थितः स ब्रह्म स शिवः परमस्वराज हृदगुं ऊर्ध्वरेतं विरूपाक्षं विश्वरूपाय वै नमः ॐ नारायणाय ॐ नारायणाय वासुदेवाय धीमहि तन्नो विष्णुः प्रचोदयात्। प्रभु जी आइए, प्रभु जी मेरा हाथ गायो विष्णुरराडमसि विष्णु कृष्णमसि विष्णु स्नप्रेस्तो विष्णु विष्णोर्ध्रुवमसि तदस्य प्रियमभिवादोऽस्यां नरो यत्र देवयवो मदन्ते उरुक्रमस्य सहि बन्धुरित्था विष्णो पदे परमे मध्वमुत्सः प्रतद्विष्णुस्तवते वीर्याय यस्योरुषुत्रिषु विक्रमणेषु अधिक्षयन्ति भुवनानि विश्वा परो मात्रया तनुवावृता। ये ले जाओगी हो गया माना करो। सप्तधामविः इदं विष्णुर्विचक्रमे त्रेधानि दधे पदं समूढमस्य वागुसुरे त्रीणि पदानि चक्रमे विष्णुर्भूपा ततो धर्माणि धारयन् विष्णुः कर्माणि पश्यतो इन्द्रस्य युध्यस्य गा तद्विष्णो परमं पदं ददा पश्यन्ति सूरयः दिवे भगक्षुरागतं तद्विप्रासो विपञ्चवो विष्णोर्यत्परमं पदं पर्याप्त्यानन्दरायाय सर्वस्य मोदिरात्र उत्तममहर्भवति सर्वस्याप्ते सर्वस्य चित्ते सर्वमेव तेनाप्नोति सर्वं जते। ॐ नारायणाय विद्महे वासुदेवाय एक एता स्नानान्तरं शुद्धाचमनीयमासु घी खत्म हो गया, घी नहीं है,
एक और आया, एक और
घी 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 लेके आओ, घी 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 मत वो और लेके आ रहे हैं हिरण्यवर्णां हरिणीं सुवर्णरजतस्रजां चन्द्रां हिरण्मयीं लक्ष्मीं तां महावहजातवेदो लक्ष्मीं यस्यां हिरण्यं विन्देयं कामस्तं मुरजानहम् श्रियं देवीमुपक्वये शीर्मा देवीर्जुषताम् तां स्मितां हिरण्यप्राकाराम् आद्रां ज्वलन्तीं दृष्टां पद्मे स्थिताम् उपक्वये श्रियम् चन्द्रां प्रभातां यशसा ज्वलन्ते श्रियं लोके तां पद्मिनीं अलक्ष्मीर्मेनश्यतां त्वां प्रणे आदित्यवर्णे तपसो दिजातो तस्य फलानि तपसानुदन्तो भाग्यान्तराय च भाग्यामलक्ष्मीः उभयगुमां देवसखाभिर्निश्चमनिना सह प्रादुर्भूतोऽस्मि पृथ्वीपाशामलां ज्येष्ठामलक्ष्मीनाश्रयाम्यहम् अभो देव
पानी से घुला दे क्या?
नहीं, जरूरत नहीं है। भगवान को उसी पीठे के ऊपर रख के अभिषेक कर दीजिए।
टाइम ले लेगा।
बड़ा पीठा चाहिए, बड़ा पीठा बेचता हूँ। बड़ा पीठा नहीं है, बोलो राधा कृष्ण का बना बैठ दो अपना। चलो प्रभु बैठा लग बना। जैसे वो उड़न पीठा है ना, लेके आओ, वो बोलो लेके आओ।
सेकंड बाहर देगा बाहर से पीछे से हाँ can't date properly from down. Hey, please don't stand up.
You keep one side only, otherwise we won't know who is bigger than I. Charan is the first. देखो मनोज मेरा कौन भाग गया और
बढ़िया शॉट है बैठ जाओ रोड दिखा दीजिए Seshadripuram. So, parcel. Link पे जो हरिबन link is this channel में है ना वीडियो फोटो हरिबन पार्सल सब फोटोग्राफर है इधर से उधर सब फोटोग्राफर है ये सामने तो थोड़ा निकाल दीजिए.
Hare Krishna, second initiative, please come forward for Abhishek. Sing Charan.
कंटिन्यूअस शॉट्स ले लो हाई फ्रेम रेट में.
होगा नहीं. हो नहीं होगा.
शॉट आ जाए.
हाँ वो तो है.
वो ब्राह्मण उधर से आ रहे हैं, आप इधर आप लाइन पे इधर से बना के हुए हैं, आप इधर से आइए, इधर से आइए. डोंट अलाउ
मैं खड़ी हूँ, मैं नहीं हटाऊंगा.
नॉट फ्रॉम दिस साइड.
ಮಾಜಿ ಹಂಗೆ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಪ್ರೆಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಮುಂದೆ, ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಮುಂದೆ ಮುಂದೆ. ಹಾಂ ಹಾಂ ಬಸ್ 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 ಬಸ್.
मैं जब आऊंगी तो मेरा एक फोटो बनाइए. हाँ,
अब लोगों की फोटो भी नहीं लेगा. फैमिली मेरा नाम कौन पुकार रहा है? अरे बस
ಅವರೇ ತಗೊಂಬನ್ನಿ ಅಂತಿದ್ದು. ಅವ್ರು ಇಡಿ ಅಂತಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಯಾರು
ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಹೈಯರ್ ಅಥಾರಿಟಿ स्किल्स देख रहे हो, फोटोग्राफी स्किल्स। एयर ड्रॉप करना था। Ten, five more photos you take it. हो गया ना वो आ गया। करेंगे ना बहुत लोग दिख रहे हैं और ऊपर नीचे हो जाएगा तो इसको ऊपर करिए ना, ये भी नहीं स्टैंड उतना ही है। हाँ हो रहा है क्या सर? हाँ स्टैंड कितने हो वो वही गाना है, स्टैंड बड़ा कर रहा हूँ। स्टैंड दिख रहा है, हाँ वो मुझे पता है यार। हाँ वो ऐसा दिख रहा है, ऊपर रख देंगे, को ऊपर बाकी पड़ेगी। नहीं कौन देगा, मतलब वृंदावन जी को कौन। हाँ 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 परिवार थोड़ा दबाओ, थोड़ा थोड़ा, हाँ बस बस बस।
Hare Krishna, all the devotees who have served for making the beautiful dress of Jagannath. Ella bhaktaru yaryaru Jagannath's beautiful dress ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. This particular dress for flower abhishekam today, request those devotees to please come forward. Only devotees who have done today's dress for Jagannath, request those devotees to please come forward.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Hare.
ಆಯ್ತು ಮನೆ ಬನ್ನಿ
ಮಾತಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಆಮೇಲೆ ಸಿಕ್ಕ ಫೋನ್ ನಂಬರ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟರೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಮನೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿರಲ್ಲ ನಿಮ್ಮ ನಂಬರ್ ಯಾರು ಐತೆ ಸುಧೀರ್ ಪ್ರಭುಗೆ ಇದು ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ನಿಮಗೆ ನನ್ನ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಒಬ್ಬರು ಇರ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ ವಿಶ್ವಾಸ ಅವರು ಕೊಟ್ಬಿಡಿ ನಿಮ್ಮ ನಂಬರ್ ಕೊಡ್ತೇವೆ
ಕೃಷ್ಣ 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 ಹೋಗತ್ತೆ ಫುಲ್ ಲ್ಯಾಪ್ಟು ಅಲ್ವಾ कीर्तन लगा दो कीर्तन कीर्तन लगा दीजिए आई बोल फ्रीज शॉट ले ले फ्रीज शॉट
What?
when the flowers are falling in the way between the freeze shot
Okay.
यूट्यूब पर सब सुनाई दे रहा है हाँ यूट्यूब पर सब सुनाई दे
Prabhu.
माजी ಒಳಗಡೆ ಹಾಕಿ ಒಳಗಡೆಯಿಂದ ಹಾಕಿ ಮಾಜಿ ಇದು ಮಾಜಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಬೇಡ ಮಾಜಿ ಹಂಗೆ ಬಂದೆ
Hare Krishna, we have relaunched the Food for Life program. Food for Life on every Dwadashi. Devotees who want to sponsor for occasions of birthdays, anniversaries, please contact Chaitanya Prabhu. Chaitanya Prabhu is right here. ಯಾರ್ಯಾರು ಸ್ಪಾನ್ಸರ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ದ್ವಾದಶಿ ಫೀಸ್ಟ್ for Food for Life, please contact Chaitanya Prabhu. कोई भी भक्त है जो Food for Life स्पॉन्सर करना चाहते हैं वो यहाँ पे आके Chaitanya Prabhu से बात करें. वो खुद आके भी एक्चुअली द्वादशी भी जो अन्नदान होता है वो खुद आके भी कर सकते हैं हर द्वादशी में होता है एवरी द्वादशी की रात को फॉलो होता है.
She does so much service, you come for service, then she will allow.
Hare Krishna.
She needs Mataji for service. So you give promise that you are come service, you name, then
Next 5 minutes, so whoever wants, please come and
माता जी क्या करो, बच्चे से उठा के फ्लावर आप कर रहे हैं, वो कोई भगवान है या तो नीचे उठा के पूजा कर रहे हैं।
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Please proceed for Nagar Sankirtan now. Then we have Prasadam. Please proceed for Nagar Sankirtan. Jaya Prabhupada.